You're listening to the Family Podcast from PursueGOD.org.
Couples, I am excited. We are going to do a Valentine's Day special podcast today. I invited my husband, Bryan, to join me today. Hello, Bri.
Hi, does this count for our Valentine's Day date? That's my first question.
No. But I do appreciate you participating. That is a gift. That counts as a gift. Maybe just not dinner. But anyways, I thought this might be fun because we've been married almost 30 years. So I thought it might be fun. And I think it's going to be very interesting, actually, as we've talked about what I asked him was, give me a word to describe that encapsulates each decade that we've been married. So our first 10 years, second 10 years, and then, of course, we're almost at the 30.
Now, hang on a second. We're almost at 30 years?
Yeah.
Do your math. Is this like...
We're going on 28.
Yeah.
Isn't that close?
So you're really rounding up.
Well, of course. I mean, it was a cleaner thing to be like,
I'm
three words.
I'm going to round down to 20. How about that?
No. You have your 3 words. Because we're in a different season now. You can't.
Yeah, I got it. I got my 3 words.
All right.
Are we encouraging couples to do this like on a date night?
I think it would be fun for you guys to have a conversation. Like, choose a word that you feel like describes however many years you've been married. Just divide it into a few years at a time and just see what you come up with.
So we're envisioning husband and wife jumping in their car, driving for their date night. They got their sitter figured out. And they listen to the podcast. So maybe they can be like pausing this podcast at certain points on their way out to a hot date night, having a nice steak dinner.
Or tofu, if that's more your jam.
Let's go with steak. Let's say a nice steak dinner, maybe a salad if you want a salad.
Why are you going through someone's menu plan?
I don't know. I'm just thinking. I'm just trying to help people. I'm just trying to help a brother out. All the husbands listening, this is the romantic. This is going to be, I hope, is this going to be romantic on Valentine's or is this going to cause fights?
Hopefully. Yeah. Well, this is what's going to be interesting because the words you choose have a little bit of a different tone than the words I've chosen. And I think that's kind of indicative of how husbands and wives maybe experience different seasons of marriage and parenting differently, or how you look back on it, maybe.
So we're approaching 30 years. But for the couples that maybe are only a few years into it, maybe they just pick 1 or 2 words, I guess.
Yeah, right. The point is, it just could be an insightful conversation to kind of reflect on your marriage and the seasons you've been in, how you've grown, what you're learning, what you really loved, what was hard, and just kind of do, it's kind of like a State of the Union, but looking back on your marriage and on your life together. And hopefully there's more good than bad. And hopefully you can learn some things from each other, because there might be things that we talk about tonight that you're like, I didn't know that was hard for you, or I didn't realize that's how you experienced that. Just more insight. I just thought, what could we do on Valentine's Day except do something creative that maybe could be a conversation starter for people going out on their hot date, as you would say.
Yeah, this is going to be good. Apologies ahead of time if this causes a fight on Valentine's Day, because sometimes that happens, right, Trace? I remember, maybe even with us on occasion, you're like, let's have a conversation. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about something meaningful. And I think generally, would you say that wives are more equipped to want to talk at a meaningful level?
Yeah.
What would you say from all the couples that we know?
Yeah, I mean, I think women just tend to be maybe a little bit more insightful or intuitive and more maybe connected to feelings, or more quickly can come up with those answers. Whereas I think sometimes a lot of men, like, it takes them time to think through something or to order their thoughts. So they may not be as rapid fire or on demand for them. So yeah, that can create some tension in a relationship if you feel like, I'm ready to talk and you seem like that was even true in our dynamic. I'm very quick to get my feelings and my words out. And for you, there were times I think you needed time to be like, I'm not really sure how I'm thinking and feeling about it. I can't have this conversation right now.
Yeah, you had a mom and a dad who are better at communicating. When you were growing up, you did a lot of sitting around the kitchen table having conversations about, meaningful things. Mm-hmm. I think I love my parents, but I think I would say they were it'd be interesting to see what their words would be for their seasons of marriage. But certainly with 5 kids, they had 5 kids. They were in survival mode probably most of the time. Mm-hmm. And so, my dad would go work in the city. He'd come home, get home for dinner time, And, mom had been chasing 5 kids around the house.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if that just made it a little bit harder for them to create space. Probably also because we had there were lots of kids.
Mm-hmm.
It might be a little bit harder to like focus in on each kid if you have a bunch of kids at home. So for our couples listening who do have a bunch of kids, maybe you know what I'm talking about, but maybe some of these couples listening don't have kids yet. Mm-hmm. So it'll be interesting to think they don't have an excuse then.
Well, I think the key is that this is an opportunity to do something intentional with your marriage.
Yeah.
Because as we're going to talk about as we move through our decades together, like there definitely were seasons where it was harder to keep our marriage at the forefront and a priority because you're just running around. So this is just an opportunity to do a creative kind of reflection and talk about it as a couple and learn how each of you have kind of experienced these stages or phases or seasons. You ready to do it?
All right, I think I'm ready. Who's going to go first? You're going to go first or me? You go first.
Okay. Well, as I started thinking about it, it ended up being 3 Ps. I know, but yours ended up being 3 Fs.
Well, it's because you put pressure on me. I mean, I'm the preacher, so that's like a Baptist preacher thing.
Exactly.
So I kind of felt pressure to do the 3 Fs then, since you did the 3 Ps. So
all right,
go ahead.
All right. So
what are we going to do? We're going to each do our first season.
Yeah. Okay. So our first 10 years together is we had a pretty fast courtship. We're talking
1998.
Yep. Is when we got married.
We're from the last millennium.
Yeah.
About that. That's great. We're from the 1900s. So 1998 dating in 97.
97. Married in 98.
So there weren't iPhones for 10 years.
Right. I know that's
for the first 10 years of our marriage, there was no such thing as an iPhone. That's hilarious.
That's hilarious.
No Facebook. So just for the young listeners, just so many things that we take for granted now. Mm-hmm. Podcasts weren't a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, but back to me, back to my word.
Yeah. Okay. So first 10 years.
Okay, the first 10 years. So, we get married a year later. So we both finished our master's degrees, moved out to Utah a year later.
We started in Chicago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Came out here.
Yep.
And then we got pregnant that December and we started a college ministry. And then the next year we planted a church. And then the next year we had another kid. And so the first 10 years,
the next year we didn't plant another campus yet.
No.
So then it slowed down once we
had a little bit of a lull.
AJ. Yeah.
But when you think about the first 10 years of our marriage, going from newlyweds, moving away from all of our friends and family, which was harder for me than for you, coming to a place that we didn't have anyone, and then having kids and planting a church, which is like another kid in a lot of ways. Like the word I came up with was patience. You would have thought I would have gone with change. But as I realized, like for me, I just had to exercise a lot of patience. Patience in our young marriage, like we're so different in communication style, patience and just being kind of in this weird land where I didn't know anyone or have friendship and then having young kids and just trying to be a good parent. But it's hard. It's hard with toddlers when they're not obedient. So for me, patience was a word that kind of framed our first 10 years of marriage, and patience with you too, because a lot of our early conflict was you were trying to build a young church, but we also were building a young family. And I was doing primarily the home stuff and was helping in any way that I could in the ministry. But I had to have patience with you too, there were times that you would come home and I'm like, tell me about the outside world. tell me what's going on out there. Cause I've just been home.
I said, nothing's going on out there.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
And so I just remember that we would have, arguments where I'm like, I need more from you because I'm home. I feel more isolated. I'm home with the kids. I need more interaction from you. So patience was my word.
So yeah, I remember, I can see how that would have been your word. I think every wife now listening to this is going to use that as their word for their first season. Because don't you think women are more emotionally ready? Generally, again, we're speaking in generalizations, but don't you think women are more emotionally ready for marriage? I mean, even just think about our 2 kids. We have a 25-year-old daughter who just got married, almost 23-year-old son. It's just been interesting to see over the last couple of years, like her readiness, even before she met Luke, Lucky Luke, as we now call him. She just was kind of ready for a relationship and ready to, even though she hadn't dated really before, she was focused on school and career. And then she finally was like, all right, I'm ready. And then when she did finally meet Luke, It's just kind of been neat. Like, it's almost like she's more ready emotionally for a relationship. And our son, we laugh.
He's not ready.
Is not ready.
He needs some more time. He needs more development.
He's going to
That's
need
okay. He's young.
his wife, God bless her.
Yes.
Is going to need patience.
Yeah.
So I can see what you're saying, that your word was patience.
Well, because again, for me, our first 10 years was a lot of just the child rearing, kind of those early years of like establishing, obedience and structure in the home. And for me, because I'm a routine structure person, like that was hard when, you have an infant and they're not sleeping on the schedule you want, or they're teething and it totally changes the whole schedule, or it's not meeting my expectations. So patience was definitely the word that I decided most defined me in those first 10 years.
Can you give an example? I'm giving you permission to say this on the interweb. Give an example of when you had to exercise a lot of patience toward me or toward the kids, I guess you could say, in those early years.
Well, I mean, we've talked about this before on the podcast. I mean, for me, I think, patience with you, that you were intentional with me. Because when you're in ministry, you're giving a lot to other people. So I think you kind of took me for granted. And so there were many times where I'm like, even if you could just give me a quick phone call, or if you're going to be late for dinner, or you're going to come home and I made dinner and you're like, I had a late lunch at 2, I'm not hungry. Things like that, where I just had to be patient with you to see me and to see the needs that I had and understand where I was coming from. But at the same time, me needing to understand where you were coming from, because there was a lot on your plate too.
You should have known when, was it when we were engaged?
No, I think we were married.
When I went to lunch, we were married.
We were just married.
Brand new married, because we were still in Chicago, Wheaton. Mm-hmm. I went to lunch with your boss.
No, you went to breakfast with my boss.
That's right. You'll see. I think we're both right. I went to breakfast with your boss.
Remember, no cell phones.
No cell phones. And it was 4 hours?
Oh, it was more than that.
4.5 hours? 5 hours?
No, it was more than that, because it was like late afternoon by the time you finally rolled in. And we had a wedding we were supposed to get to.
That's right.
So you went through the breakfast crowd, clears out of a restaurant.
Yep.
You go through the lunch busyness and still haven't left this restaurant. So you can imagine, yes, my panic and frustration and annoyance. I'm like, how do you meet with someone all those hours and not realize, the breakfast crowd has come and gone. Now the lunch crowd's come and gone. What time is it?
I don't think clocks were invented yet.
No.
So, I think what it was, first of all, he's one of those guys.
Mm-hmm. You got to know how to shut him down.
You got to know how to, he's awesome. I love him. He was super interesting to talk to, but one of those guys that you had to know how to shut it down, because he's not gonna.
And you didn't know how. So
you
just kept going.
That was a skill that I feel like it took me a long time to learn.
Yeah.
To be like.
And time management, like awareness.
Time management. Yes, I'm still learning those skills. So that was even and that was probably like a little bit of a harbinger for what would come in ministry, because then that's kind of what ministry is like. We plant a church a couple of years later out in Utah, and you just have that all the time.
Yeah.
You've got people all the time that you can always be focusing on.
Well, and I remember I would hear you on the phone with someone and be like, oh my gosh, he was like, that was so good. He was so present. He was so kind. He was so like emotionally present in the moment. And then I feel like you would come sometime, not all the time, you'd come to the dinner table and I'm ready to have like adult conversation. And you're like staring off in the distance, like just trying to check out.
I used my words. I used all my words on that one phone call.
Yeah. So anyways, what's your word?
Well, hold on. I have to say, isn't it interesting that Kenzie, our daughter, is like that too? I think AJ is even a little bit like that too, where she can be really present and engaged at work. She's got a great job and an awesome career. We're super proud of her and of our son. But now it's funny all these years later to see kind of coach Kenzie and Luke through that, because kind of the same thing. His job is a little
remote,
bit less people centered, and hers is very people-y, and she's an introvert.
Yep. So she uses all her words at work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she and Luke have had to work through that, because he's ready to go. Like I totally relate to that. I remember being like, all right, yay, Bry's coming home. I can how are things going at church? Like what's going on? Who'd you have lunch with today? And then you would be like, I don't have any more words to give.
Well, and what was interesting is your parent, that was the pattern in your parents' relationship. Your dad, was an exec at a company in the city, and he would come home. Your mom, was a pretty much a stay-at-home mom and super supportive of your dad, and was almost like his...
Well, she was his confidant for sure. Yeah. I remember sitting at the table and my dad processing all the stuff going on at work, and we would all sit there and my mom would kind of help him think through things. And yeah, so that was kind of, then I think my expectation was like, let's go. Like, I'm your partner in this ministry. Tell me what's going on. And for you, it was like your parents didn't have that dynamic. Your dad didn't talk about work.
Yeah, I honestly can't even remember if my mom ever asked him how his work or if he ever brought work home.
Yeah.
He just didn't. He didn't bring work home for whatever reason. Maybe he just didn't want to. He wanted to be present at home. He wanted to focus on the kids. I don't know. Or maybe my mom wasn't that interested or whatever. We didn't talk about politics around the dinner table. We didn't, current events, like that was just not something we did. So different from your life growing up. And so then your expectations are different. And so I think I don't know if resentful is the right word, but I certainly didn't have an expectation that I should have to talk about work, which is really sad to think about that, because we planted Alpine together.
Well, right. I mean, it's different. It's not like you're in this corporate job and I don't even know who the people are or what you do for a living. Like, we moved out here and planted a church and we're in this together. And but I get it. I mean, I understand like that took you time to kind of learn and develop that. Again, I mean, it was just, that's why patience. Like, it was just kind of working through those things. Okay. What was your word?
Okay. My word, it's interesting. You'll have to analyze this for our listeners. My word was frantic. You know, you started by saying you missed something. I don't know if you said this, but when we first were married, I was the chaplain of the Cubs.
Yeah, I didn't say that.
Yeah, so we were doing that in Chicago, which was super fun. We finished our master's degrees. I was at Wheaton, you were at Trinity. We feel this calling to go move 1,400 miles away to Utah to plant a church in the middle of Mormon land. So we raise support. You know, we get married, we raise support, we move across the country, we have our first kid.
Well, I already said all this.
I know. So, but that's what I'm saying is in my mind, all of that stuff equates to frantic.
Right.
Just like frenzied pace and just go, which I love. I'm comfortable with that. But anyway, I just think it's interesting that was my word. That's more of your word is more emotional and inwardly focused. My word is more outwardly focused, not so much processing how it made me feel or just more like go.
Well, I think what's funny is men and women, like, because for you, frantic was because you're like I can only focus on one thing at a time. Whereas as a woman, like I can multitask and do lots of things. So maybe that's part of it too, is like for you, it's just like, you know, lots of change and things happening, but I can only really focus on one thing at a time and feeling the pressure of like, oh, well, now this needs my attention. Now this needs my attention. Whereas for me, it's like, I feel like I was kind of trying to hold everything together and do what I could in each area, feeling the weight of responsibility of wanting to be a good supportive wife to you, and not wanting to be a burden that then distracted you from ministry, but then also wanting to be a good mom and to raise our kids to be healthy and followers of Jesus. So anyways, that is just a little bit interesting that your word would be frantic, but it is true. Like we had a lot of change. A lot of stuff happened in our first 10 years for sure.
Okay. So that gets us to 2007, 2008. So on the ministry, on the personal front, AJ is 4 years old. We move into a new home, the home we're in now. We open our first building. We had bought property in 2004 for the church. We took a huge risk, took a loan. You know, our first campus really exploded. We wanted to be a multi-site church, but at that point we were 6-7 years old. We were only one campus and just a few hundred people. But when we got into our new building, we really exploded in growth. Within a year, we're launching into a second campus. And so that was kind of the iPhone now finally exists. The first app, I think, on the iPhone came in 2008. I don't know why that matters that much, but I don't know. Just to
You're really fixated on that.
We're just trying to give our listeners some context and history. Facebook was started in 2004 when AJ was born, or the year after AJ was born. Okay, so.
Well, I want to say something before we go to the second decade. I just want to encourage couples that are in that frenzy. Well, sorry, your word was frantic. My word was patience. If that's kind of where you find yourself, I think if I could go back and talk to myself, I think I would say like, hey, don't sweat the small stuff. Build the right foundations, enjoy the season of parenting, even though it's tiring and hard and can feel isolating, because it's just a season. You're going to come out of that. There's going to be new joys and new fun. And the work that you put in when your kids are young gives you a great platform for just building on that then as your kids go into like later elementary, preteen, teenage years. So I would just encourage parents and couples, if you feel like you're in the frantic, needing a lot of patience mode, to recognize that there will be more peaceful seasons in the future. So don't wish it away. Don't crumble under the pressure of it. Don't lose joy and then just be miserable through it. Just take each day at a time and recognize that easier days can come. I don't know if you'd say anything else to that.
Yeah, no, that's good. How would you rate the first, on a scale of 1 to 10? How would you rate the first 10 years?
I mean, probably a 7 or 8.
Okay.
I mean, it was great, but there were definitely harder seasons. It took me a while to get used to being so far away from home and friends and family. But I feel like, we caught our stride. Mm-hmm. So 7 or 8, what would you say?
11, 12. Just kidding. No, I'd say if I'm thinking of the other seasons and that I can't give them all the best or the same score, I don't know. I think probably a
little lower.
No, I think higher actually.
Okay.
Because I think that's just how I'm wired. I love starting things. I love change. I love an adventure. Mm-hmm. So just this idea of, one of the biggest changes is getting married. Mm-hmm. Another massive change is, starting a business basically, which is what we did. Mm-hmm. Like that's all fun. That's fun in the moment. What about
starting a family? Are you not going to put that on?
No,
your
that
list?
was coming. That was coming. I guess that should have come first. Starting a family. Like that was a lot of work for me. I don't think you realize how much work that was for me. Yeah. No, that was all. Yeah, that's all just fun. Like watching our family videos. And I mean, I remember moving out to Utah and meeting with a mentoring couple early on. I think before we had any kids, and they were like 10 years ahead of us. I distinctly remember them saying, it's going to go so fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, whatever you old
Yeah, I know.
people.
There were days that it didn't feel like it went fast, but it is true. When you look back now, it's like, wow, time flew.
Yeah.
All right, go to the second decade.
Okay, so what is your word? So your first word was patience.
My second.
You can't use patience again.
I know.
Okay.
I'm having patience with you tonight. I'm the host of this thing. Priorities. I feel like our second decade was when our kids were getting more active in sports. They did more things with friends. And I just remember feeling like it was hard to keep priorities straight. It was hard to find time for just you and I to build on our marriage. It was hard to find time for us to really disciple our kids. Like it was just easy to let life kind of take over. So for me, I would say priorities, because especially, and I know couples can relate to this, especially when your kids get into junior high school and they're playing any sport or dance or whatever. It's like every school turns everything into like you're a professional level person. Like your commitment level is like every day you're doing training or practice, or you're traveling for tournaments. And the money piece, like that was another thing too that I remember. We weren't making a lot of money, and even the priority of like, where are we putting the money we have? Thinking about college, thinking about buying a car for our daughter when she turned 16, thinking about a future wedding someday. Like priorities, it was just the word that came to mind for me. And I loved those years, by the way. Like that's where I felt like I was the most at ease as a parent. I kind of enjoyed as we moved into later elementary through high school.
Yeah, I think you bring up one of the things for us that we had to wrestle to fight against was, like you said, sports. Both of our kids are athletes and wanted to be really good athletes, and we thought that was great. We felt like it was important for them to have social interaction through sports and set goals and all those things. But we quickly realized, and maybe it sort of snuck up on us because I don't feel like it was like this when we were in sports. I mean, I remember I had a couple of friends who were really good in soccer, and they played what we would call traveling team soccer,
right?
Which now is club.
Yep.
And maybe that's what it was called back then too. I don't know, but we didn't do it.
Yep.
Those are a couple guys growing up in high school were the only guys I'd ever heard of that. Kind of like private club sports.
Yep.
That wasn't who we were. We grew up, middle class and
Well, your parents had to, I mean, again, to prioritize, like, you only have so much money and I have 5 kids.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it was never, and I never even knew what I was missing, and don't believe I was missing anything.
Well, you were the best model of this for me, because I fell more into our kid has to be on this team. They have to go to this trainer. They have to all this stuff to keep up with where I felt like their peers were.
Yeah.
And I feel like you were so good at just reminding me, like, Tracy, at the end of the day is the win for us as parents is that we raise a Division I athlete? Or is it that we raise a God-honoring, respectful, hardworking, ready to take on the world individual? And I just feel like you would remind me of that many times as I kind of got caught up in the pressure. Are we doing enough? Are they good enough? Oh, so dumb when I talk about it now.
Well, part of it is we couldn't even afford it.
Yeah.
We honestly, I look back.
Are you talking about your family or us?
Us,
yeah.
Yeah. We couldn't either because we weren't making money, and we had other values for our money. I mean, I just look at both of our kids and what they make now in their careers, just fresh out of college. I love it. I'm proud of them, but like, we didn't have that kind of money.
Right.
And so we had to really just be smart about it, and we had to sacrifice to do those things. And we did. But as soon as we realized, like Kenzie playing volleyball, she made a goal that she wanted to make her high school team.
Yeah.
And once we realized that was going to be within reach, and we didn't want to pressure her into doing the club thing anymore. And I think she was relieved not to have to do it. And she felt some pressure because one of her best friends was really into soccer and was going to be a D1 soccer player. And so some of that was just identity stuff you're wrestling with.
Yep.
And so helping our kids understand that doesn't define you. You don't, because I don't know if you knew this. I knew that our kids were not going to be probably D1 athletes.
Right.
I mean, maybe if they really like doubled down and just got unhealthily into it, they could have, probably they're both athletic, but I just didn't,
But that's what I'm saying. I feel like you had, so I'm talking to the parents out there that, are you the parent that's kind of yelling and into the game? Do you, are you harping on your kid in the car ride home? I mean, by the way, we have some of those topics coming up on the podcast if they haven't already released, like encouraging on the way home. Like for me, there was like this, I wanted it so badly because I knew AJ, our son, really wanted to be a Division I basketball player. Kenzie didn't really have that as a major dream. And he worked really hard at it. And I feel like there were things that were like unfair in his journey of sport, of coaches that I think purposefully pushed him down and didn't give him opportunity, or as soon as he would make a mistake, he would be yanked, but not somebody else, and just kind of how that impacted his confidence. Yep. So I feel like as a parent, there was part of me that was wanting to protect my kid, but the other part of it is I was letting that become too like an idol almost. Like I was too fixated on that and was fearful then. And I feel like God was like saying to me, just trust me with the plan that I have for your kids' lives. Don't force something that I don't have for them. And I feel like that's where you were good of just being like, what's our priority, Trace? What matters? And we're going to say no to things that don't match those priorities. I mean, there was even, times that we'd say, we're not going to that tournament, which is a big deal when you say my kid's not going to a tournament. But there were just times that we had to say, we can't afford it, or that's just not where we're going to spend our time. Because at the same time that we were raising kids and getting more active in the parenting years, we also had a growing church, which required, you're managing a staff and managing a growing church with people in needs. And it was hard to keep the right balance of the right order of things for me at different times.
What would you say? Yeah, it would have been super helpful for us. I don't know if we would have had the ears to hear it, but it would have been helpful for us 20 years ago, let's say, to hear a podcast like this and have this conversation. What would be your advice for parents who are either getting ready to move into that season and it might not be sports, maybe it's dance or some other activity or 4-H or whatever the thing is, or even school.
Yeah.
What would you say to a parent who maybe feels that pressure to push their kid in a certain direction like that?
Well, this is where it would be good as a couple that even having listened to this podcast or some of our others that we have on parenting and sports and kids, in my opinion, I think if we could go back, if we would have sat down and said, what are our primary goals for our kids? What do we want to develop in them? What do we want to see for them? And then from there, run everything then that came our way through that grid. Because then I think you could look at sports and be like, okay, well, what's the goal of sport? It's to learn, teamwork, how you deal with a coach, whether they're nice or not nice, finishing what you started, hard work, dedication, all of those things that come with sport. But is our goal that we want them to get a scholarship? No. The goal is that we want them to learn from sports. And so where does that fit in the priority list? Where does that fit in our vision that we have for our kids?
And I don't think it would have been wrong to say our goal is that they get a scholarship, or for them to say my goal is to be a scholarship athlete. I don't think that's a wrong goal. I just think
I don't want it to be the only goal.
Well, for sure.
Yeah.
Or even the main goal. But I also think you need to be truthful to your kids.
Yeah.
And we told our kids, I remember telling Ken's, like when she was starting to notice a couple of her friends getting scholarship offers at some, other schools, they weren't the school she wanted to go to.
Right, right.
So I was like, you could, if you wanted to, you could be a D1 athlete, AJ2 probably, and I mean, it's probably a little easier for girls than guys in some cases, but do you want to go to some small school somewhere on the other side of the country? And I think she had enough sense to know in AJ2 that no, that's not what I want to do. I'm not going to chase my sports dream so much that I really end up at a school that I would never have picked.
Right.
Now, for some people, they're like next level athletes, and maybe they could pick whatever school they want. That's great. That's awesome. So I think part of that is just being honest with your kids, and not to like squash their dreams, but be honest with them about what they're giving up.
Right.
If they're going to continue to, chase a dream.
What was your word?
So my first word was frantic, and my second word for the next 10 years was foundation.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like yours, like the kids were in those really important formative years of, 4 to 14, somewhere around there. So it was just really important those were like the roll up your sleeves and do the work. It's like the more the EQ work. The baby years were easy in a sense that you're just like hugging the baby and changing their diaper and rolling around on the, that's in some ways that's harder, the potty training and sleep and stuff like that.
How active were you in the potty training?
I mean, I
years?
feel like I did 90% of that. 90-10, would you say?
I do think foundational is a good word though, because that is true. It really, those years really are important to establish building trust with your kids, that you're a safe place to come when, they're bullied at school or they're on the receiving end of gossip or something.
Yeah, I feel like most new parents can do little damage in the first 2 to 3 years, but there's a lot of damage you can do without knowing it. You're not meaning to do damage, but just not being prepared, not having the skills. And I don't think I was prepared either for those foundational. I think you were so, not just with your training and schooling, but also with your parents. I love my parents, but I feel like your parents, your mom especially, was very intentional. We laugh at some of her ways, but she was like an emotionally intentional parent. I don't know if it's her mom was like that with her or what it was, but that was a new thing for me to see, that you're really gonna, what you did with our kids, that you really help them through their relationship building and their emotions, and you have to be willing to like press through that and have that awkward conversation and read their face, all the things that I'm terrible at. Because we joke that if you weren't around to raise them, if I was a single dad, like they would be, both of our kids would be a mess, because they would have been self-made people. Yeah. They wouldn't have really had.
Well, yeah, we have to coach them. We had to mentor our kids through some hard things, which required intentionality and priority of family time, priority of like sitting at the dinner table and being like, how was your day? We would do, give me a high and a low.
Yeah.
And those were moments where we were establishing some, like, to your word, the foundations of like, how are we talking through, how are we bringing God's word into the day-to-day things of their life?
That I could do, but what I couldn't do, and this is good for couples to hear, because I just feel bad for couples and we meet a lot of couples like this where they're both more like me. So they might not have those soft skills.
Or picking up on cues.
Pushing through. Like there were times where if I got a no, you ask a question and I got a no, we get a no from the kids, I'd be like, okay, it's fine. You don't want to talk about it. You might be like, not all the time, but you might kind of press into that, not let them get away with that.
Yeah.
And we need to have Kenzie on the podcast because AJ's a verbal processor. So you didn't have to do that as much with him, but with Kenzie, you really had to. And there were a lot of years there in those foundational years where you really had to help her
use her words.
Yeah. And I think she probably hated it at the time, but now I think she looks back at it and she's just super grateful. I wouldn't have pressed through. I wouldn't have made her do that.
Right.
I wouldn't have said, nope, that's not good enough. You need to, I would have been like, okay, fine. You don't want to talk. Now, again, I think there's wisdom in knowing when to push and when not to push.
Yeah. But to me, to the word of foundation or priority, it's just recognize. So this is what I would say to couples that are in this season, like use your time wisely and don't miss these opportunities to really create foundational conversations of, like I said, bringing Jesus into your home, into your day-to-day, teaching your kids, when they rise, when they go to bed, and make sure that priorities are the right priorities. Because it's easy for us to be like, I'm running to this sports practice, you're doing this, and we're just all running around. And then all of a sudden they leave the house and we're like, gosh, we never really spend any quality time together. Like use this time, recognize that these years when your kids get into the later elementary, junior high, into high school, these are really important years to establish trust, openness, so dialogue, conversation, and again, showing your kids like God is real to them in their life today. It's not just this ancient old Bible and old stories that were fables or something. And to take this time seriously, make intentional parenting and being intentional about your marriage and not forgetting about that in those years, to make that a priority and build the foundations.
So you think my word's better, foundation?
No, I think your word's good too. Yeah.
Right.
But I like my words too.
Okay.
So now.
Wait, how would you rate the second? You rated the first.
I mean, I would say it's still an 8 or a 9. I mean, there were hard seasons, just like different things with the kids or friends or something. But I still say largely we moved through that season pretty good. What would you say?
I would probably rank it one tick below the first season.
Okay.
Probably. Just because even though we planted a lot of churches, we stopped having kids, so there wasn't as much change.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of change still with church. We added a bunch more campuses. But I think that I would say that like that first decade was like energizing to me because of all the change and the unknown. And I'm just wired where I like that. Yeah.
And then it came into just like building on what has been established. Okay. So here we are, technically only 7.5 years into our third decade, but whatever.
Yes. Thank you for acknowledging.
Yeah. So I'll tell you my word is purpose. Because I feel like this is different than you. I feel like I've grieved a retirement from active parenting. Like that was my primary role and my identity was being a mom. And when when AJ moved across the country, like almost 2 years ago now, I mean, I've never wept like that before. And it wasn't because I was so excited. Like our whole goal for parenting was like that our kids would be healthy and ready to go and start their life. And I'm so proud of both of them. But man, when he drove out of our driveway,
we were a mess.
Yep. And I think for you, I don't know what all your emotion was. I can only speak to mine. It just was like, it's taken me a while because now our daughter got married. That was kind of another change. Like my relationship with her is different, all good, just different. And I've had to kind of grieve and find new purpose to fill some of those things that are now missing. Because I spent a lot of time with our kids and running around and doing whatever they needed. Their needs came ahead of anything else. And now it's like, they don't need me that way anymore. So what's the new purpose that I'm finding? Because I don't want to not that I work full time. We have a vibrant ministry, but it's still finding purpose in like the interpersonal piece. And so I'm looking for just more people to mentor and to pour into, but still looking for purpose because there's more time. even though that's so crazy, we've got plenty of things going on, but I still have time in my day.
I know it's nuts to think how much more we both do now that our kids are out of the house. We're empty nesters. How much, like, from the outside looking in, people would say, how do you guys do all these things? And we feel like not at all frantic. I don't feel frantic. It really is like having the kids in the home is such a responsibility. It's like it's always, at least for you, and for sure for you, and to a lesser extent for me as well, but it's like it consumes you.
Yeah, but right. My first thought would be, well, how does that impact the kids, or what do they need? And I won't make plans, or I won't schedule this because I'm thinking about them.
Right.
And now it's like we just have our time is ours.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was your word?
My word was freedom.
Oh, yeah.
My word was
See, this is what I'm
freedom.
saying.
I know my words are more selfish, aren't they?
They're
I'm
not
just
selfish.
realizing this.
They're not selfish, but it's just less emotional. Like you're looking at I mean, we definitely have more freedom, which there's lovely things about that. But for me, it's finding new purpose because I've lost something that I really loved to do.
I know. It's been interesting to see. We need to do another podcast on this in particular, like the empty nester thing, but maybe have another couple in on that. But like there was no real preparing us. I remember when Kenzie went off to college first, I was a mess. Mm-hmm. When AJ went off to college, and again, they went to school not far from here, but it was still more like a change of seasons. Mm-hmm. It wasn't horrible, but it was when he finished college and went off to start his career and, drove literally across the country.
Because we knew he wasn't going to live here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't know. We still don't know where he's going to land long term. And we were both a mess. That was crazy. But then I think I recovered pretty quickly.
Yeah, you did.
I think, how long was it? I think I had the sim, the golf sim.
Yeah, you had your
set
golf
up
sim
in the garage.
Yep. Pretty quickly.
Within a week.
Maybe.
So I moved on.
Yeah.
And I think you did kind of have to figure out like because it was more part of your purpose and your identity, and it was your priority.
Well, here's what I would say too to the couples, because this is the season of life where divorce is more prevalent because all of a sudden now you have less distraction and now it's just the two of you. So pay attention to like building in your marriage along the way so that when you get to the freedom or finding new purpose, it's like you have that with your spouse still. You haven't just totally forgotten about that. I would also say I want to make sure that my purpose is not then trying to like force myself on my kids or like needing them to need me still. And, I don't want to encroach on Kenzie and her new marriage and for her to feel like she has this burden of like, my mom's lonely or she doesn't have anything to do, like giving them freedom to develop their own family. And I can just see that sometimes with especially moms, women, that we then start, or maybe you just get into, you're just scrolling on your phone all day to fill the time, or you're watching stupid shows that don't promote like health in your marriage and expectations and all of that. Like it's important to find purpose and to pour in and to serve others and replace maybe that role of being like a full-time mom with other meaningful, purposeful, impactful things, and not just getting lazy and lost in purposelessness. Because I see that happen, and I don't want that to be true of me.
Yeah, I think about, we 8 campuses, lots of people that we get to interact with, and lots of couples that we get to mentor or just be friends with. It is, sometimes I look at some other couples and I just say, I think John Piper said, don't waste your retirement. Now we're not retired. We probably will never retire, but from active parenting, we're retired. And I feel like, for all of you empty nesters out there, I really challenge you, don't just add another Netflix show.
Right.
Nothing wrong with a Netflix show, but make sure that you genuinely are investing in meaningful things.
Yeah.
Find a place to serve at church, mentor somebody. That's what the whole Pursue God site and resources are about, is equipping people to mentor. I think that's why I like this phase so much, is because, and I think that if we hadn't really worked so hard, and it's not just our work, I think we were blessed. I think the reason my word is freedom is because our kids are doing so well.
Yeah.
And I don't want to take away from parents who don't have that. I think when when your kids aren't thriving and doing so well, I think that's a lot harder, and you don't really probably experience the freedom. But maybe that's why that's the word for me. I really just every day I just wake up. I love what I do. I love doing this kind of stuff. Building out the resources, mentoring people, preaching sermons, all the stuff that we do. Like I feel like I get just to do it better. I can almost put more energy and effort into it and challenge myself to be better and do the next however many years God gives us in life. Like do this even better than when we were so distracted in those early years.
Yeah. So just an encouragement to you couples, however long you've been married. Like, I just think it's good to just take some time to reflect on where have you been? Where are you now? Where are some areas that you want to grow? And just talk about it as a couple and learn some new things about each other. Because for me, this was good for you and I, even just to have this little exercise and this conversation. And just an encouragement to parents, especially, like, you're not going to be perfect in any of these phases. And to me, like, setting the right foundation and the right priorities goes a long way. That when you get to those empty nest years, you feel like, okay, we took advantage of the time that we had. And, then when your kids get to an age, like, they're making their own choices. And I know that can be really hard when we watch kids making not great choices, but you can still have purpose in that by praying for them, encouraging them in the ways that you can. But just keep up the fight and stay intentional with your marriage and in your parenting.
So I felt like this really checked the box big time for Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
So maybe just McDonald's or something?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
Thanks for listening. If you haven't already, please consider rating our podcast. It's a simple way to help us reach more people. Find more resources to talk about these topics with your small group, family, or mentor on PursueGOD.org.